So, hi guys, welcome to another exciting episode from us here at GizFab, presented by me, your boy. Yeah, so about a year ago we started doing frenzy videos. Really enjoyed making the videos. The issue is without having someone to film me as I'm working, we're having to do all it by myself, film it, do the work, edit the video, blah blah blah, and ultimately it was just taking too much time to give you some decent content anyway, in the form of some nicely edited videos that weren't boring. So they took a back seat, a bit frustratingly, and then COVID hit us, albeit not in a negative way, in a really positive way. But obviously once the lockdown started, GizFab as a business just flourished. I can't describe how or why, but we have never been busier since COVID started, to the point where we now have 3 members of staff, 4 if you include myself. You got me, you got John, we got the apprentice Luke, and we got my father, Neil. And because there were 4 of us, we've had to move into this new big workshop just around the corner, and also the increased storage space that we've got upstairs, so we can reduce waiting times by hopefully trying to stock a couple of turbo manifolds of all the ones that we do, and a couple of exhaust kits, intake kits, and just to reduce that waiting time really. So as a byproduct of all this reinvestment that we've done in and expanding, we've had a bit of extra income to finally mess around with the K11 here. We did do a video on it last year. The video card is there if you want to watch it. It's not that exciting, so you've been warned. And the motivation for the direction of the changes was spurred on by a comment on one of our videos, this one here. That video is basically a K11 turbo kit that we built. Obviously we do build a lot of turbo kits for these, for a customer in Australia. We're just sort of showcasing the kit, showing what's involved, showed it all laid out on the bench, showed it fitted to the vehicle, etc. And it was just a comment made on this video, which was, to my massive surprise, Marty from Marty Car Mods. And obviously we know Marty's a big fan of the Nuggets, and he'd recently just purchased the K10 Super Turbo, which has now been made world famous and hyped up the prices. Thank you, Marty. I'll never own one of them in my lifetime now. So because of the price hike, I made the decision that rather than buy a K10 Super Turbo, he's like, we'll build a K11 Super Turbo in homage to the K10 Super Turbo. So the K10 Super Turbo, if you don't know, is a turbo and supercharged engine. It has a bit of trickery in there. It uses it's kind of a compound setup. So the turbo feeds the supercharger, and then at a certain RPM, there's a load of vacuum operated valves in there. You're going back to like 1980s tech here, and all these vacuum operated solenoid valves, they shut off the feed for the supercharger, they close the outlet of the supercharger, and the valve opens by the side, and the turbo bypasses the supercharger. I'm sure if you've ever seen a video of one, especially my car mods, they do obviously the honk, and the honk just sort of stops dead at like 3,500 RPM or 4,000 RPM when the changeover happens on the turbo supercharger. So with that in mind, we started off with the supercharger side of things. We'd already turbocharged one before, so we knew what was involved. So we thought we'll best get the supercharger set up, sorted first, and ultimately we came away with a product that we're going to be able to offer you guys out there, is a supercharger kit for your K11 Micra. Now, original estimations for this kit was going to be getting around 100 horsepower based off some calculations that I did. But obviously, calculations sometimes don't equal real life. In our case, in a fantastic way, is that the predicted output was 100 horsepower. I think it was like 103 something was the predicted output. And we actually got 117 horsepower and 117 foot-pounds, which I know there's probably a lot of people out there laughing that's a pathetic figure. But you've got to remember, these make 75 horsepower, 1.3s, which this is, makes 75 horsepower from factory and 75 foot-pounds. So that's a nice gain with a car like this. I'm not going to disclose the figures yet, but we've done further development work on the engine with the setup, just changing a few things. And we've made over 120 horsepower at this time. And we've just got some tweaks to do over the next few weeks. And we should see 130 horsepower. The torque and the power are raising linear across the graph. So we should see 130 horsepower, 130 foot-pounds. And for all you haters out there who are probably doubting them figures, we don't bullshit. Luckily for me, part of the sister side, brother side of GizFab is Ash at Giz Motorsport, who's got a dyno. We used to be next door to Ash, now we're just down the road. But Ash has got dyno, obviously, and all the analog data gear. So obviously the ECU in this is pretty basic, you can't just plug into it and get your figures. So we've been able to plug it all in, make sure the engine's running healthy, make sure that the fueling's spot on, which it has. Dyno graph is on the screen now, if you look at that. And you'll see at the start of the graph, the torque's nice and flat. But the interesting thing for us is, if you look at the end of the graph, is that the power just keeps on climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing. And the only reason it stops climbing is because we've hit the rev limiter. So we're pretty confident that we've got 130 horsepower there if we raise the rev limiter to 7,500 RPM. But yeah, let's just stop for a minute. Just going to show you some videos we've taken of me driving this on the industrial estate here. And as you'll notice in the video, is that we hit the limiter really easy. Purely because the peak power is literally at the rev limiter. So yeah, watch them videos, I'll see you in a second. So as you can see, it's pretty pokey. In that video is it's got our manifold fitted, which is a newly designed 421 design. Unfortunately, our old manifold designs won't fit unless you've got the aircon model one, which it will. Which, if you have got one, I'm not sure whether you want to change out your aircon for the Supercharger, because unfortunately the aircon's got to go. And that's also running our full 2-inch resonated system. But other than that, it's a real pleasure to drive. We've just got a couple more fueling tweaks to make. One thing I've not mentioned is that the development on this kit has all been based around the standard ECU. So the ECU remains unchanged, untouched, unmapped. We've just done some trickery with fuel delivery. Purely because this kit's aimed to be a budget kit, or an alternative to the turbo side of things, and ultimately we're trying to save you the 600 plus bill of fitting a piggyback or a standalone and a mapping charge, by retaining the ECU and just some fuel trickery, which we'll label out in the fit instructions for the kit. So I know there's probably a few of you sitting there in your boxes on your gaming chair in your office, with your LS V8 poster on the wall behind you, just sort of laughing about how pathetic that 120 horsepower Dyno graph is. And if you are laughing, you obviously don't get it, and you're probably never going to get it. So there's no point going into massive detail, because your mindset's just not going to understand why we've done it. But 75 horsepower from the factory, put him years ago. This has got 123,000 miles on it, so give or take, losing a couple of ponies. And 75 foot-pounds for the factory. And on that Dyno graph you've just seen, we made 117 horsepower and 117 foot-pounds, which is a pretty impressive gain on a standard engine. So yeah, Supercharger kit, byproduct of a stupid idea, has turned into something positive for you lot out there. Hopefully in a couple of weeks' time we're going to open up pre-orders. Don't exactly know the price yet, so don't ask. We'll do a video and a post when we do know the prices. I'm trying to keep it about on par with our base turbo kit, which is about £1,300–1,400. There'll be some currency conversions here, Australian, USD and all, Euro and all that bullshit. Some might say, well, it's the same price as the turbo kit, what's the difference? Well, the difference is, bar some components which we're not going to source for you, because you're more likely to get them second hand and we can't find a new source for them, and we don't really want to be putting a warranty on second hand parts that we can't test. We're hoping to be about £1,300–1,400. Obviously we're going to keep it as low as we can. But the bonus of that is, with all the research and development we've done, is we're going to save you that £600 mapping and ECU charge if you went turbo. There's no water lines to deal with, you've not got to change the sump, you've not got to fit oil lines. All you've got to do is put 0.3 litres worth of gear oil in the supercharger when you get it. And if you're confident or competent enough, you could fit it in about 3 or 4 hours on a good day. And on the topic of fitting, we're going to be working alongside Giz Motorsport with these kits, and we're going to offer drive-in, drive-out conversions, obviously for an additional fee, of course. What that fee is, I don't know. So you'll turn up in the morning, we'll give you a dyno run to give you a standard figure, they'll fit the kit and then run it back on the dyno, do some tuning tweaks, and then print you off a dyno graph with your new power, and then by mid-afternoon you'll be on your way home. So are we still going to super turbo it? Answer is, don't know yet. We've learned a lot about supercharging over the last few months, and it's only literally the last 2 or 3 weeks that we've got this kit running sweet as a nut, near enough anyway. I'd still like to put a turbo on it, but we've got pretty decent gains there with the supercharger. You know, once we've removed that rev limiter, you know, we should see 130 horsepower. So, are we going to super turbo it still? Answer is I don't know. I'd like to, but we've got the supercharger kit we're in, you know, pretty good at the minute. I've already got the turbo in that I was going to use for this kit. It's a relatively small turbo, but because I don't want to mess around with all the bypass valves, we're probably going to run it as a constant compound setup. So the turbo will always be feeding the supercharger and never bypassed. Probably down to the cost side of things, because you'd need quite an expensive ECU to control all them valves. And then it's sourcing the valves and then getting all the valves to operate in unison. You know, it just sounds like an absolute nightmare. So to simplify it, we'll just keep it a constant compound loop. And maybe just sort of bridge the power gap to maybe like 150, 160. You know, turbo I've chosen will do 250 horsepower on the car. It comes off, but I don't really want a 4G engine in this. Not yet anyway. It's quite an expensive engine to forge. The bits aren't readily available. but there's no sort of like low end range of parts to use. They're all sort of like high top end, you know, 800 quid for a set of rods, 800 quid for a set of pistons, and that's before you've bought shells and rings and all that. So I don't know, we'll see. If we do a super turbo on this, it won't be a kit we'll sell. Well, it's a kit we'll build if you bring your car, but it's not going to be a kit that we're going to pattern and create jigs for. It's just not going to be worth it. So what other plans have we got? Well, we've not been able to do any track days this year, thanks to the Wuhan clan and COVID-19. So we still can't fly, can't book a holiday or any of that bullshit, so I can't go to Disney World, annoyingly. So we've decided to do time attack. So yeah, a bit of women over the weekend, decided to book something, so we've just got something to look forward to, because we've got more to look forward to. So I booked it, paid for it, and I'm going to do it in this. Now, because of the condition of the overall vehicle, we're more likely going to have to enter forced induction pocket rocket class. Not my first choice, because there's some fast cars in that class looking at last year. But what pushed us to do it is the first round is at Cadwell Park, which is 20 minutes that way. So we're not too far from home, so if the car does blow up, you know, we can put the tail between the legs and we'll be home in 20 minutes rather than having to drive hours and hours to get home. Plus, I did a couple of track days on the last year, so I know the circuit a bit better. But it's the only circuit I've driven, so it's the only fucking circuit I know. And on top of that, we think we're going to enter as a team. I've offered Ashley Motorsport a chance to drive the Track Civic. Again, it's not about going out in there and being the fastest car in the world. It's going out in there and doing it. You know, there's plenty of keyboard track day warriors out there who will sit at the keyboard. Oh, I'm the fucking best driver ever. I can left foot brake and right foot brake, and I could use my cock on the clutch if I wanted to. But you know, but they've never been on track. So we're doing it. Probably not going to be fastest out there. But if anything, reliability check to make sure, you know, Supercharged and explode. Other than that, it's about having some fun really, but we're going to fit most of our catalogue to this vehicle. Panhards, braces, it's got our exhaust system on it already. I just sort of, you know, go out there and prove that our shit is good shit. And on top of that, I've finally come up with a livery design, which you'll see on the page here. Planning to do both cars the same. Obviously just stick it up with our individual numbers and names on the rear windows as per regulations. What other things have I not said? Body kit, which you can probably see in the video just there. Picked this up at the weekend. Looking at the kit, it's like an old Nismo kit, which I've been after for a while now actually. Been trawling Bailly and Kruber and all that for a set of genuine JDM Nismo fenders. This came up a bit more than what I wanted to pay, if I'm honest. But because I don't want to put a diff in it, because diffs are quite expensive for these. And I really want a plated diff with it being a track car. We're just sort of trying to compensate for the lack of diff with a bit of extra track and a bit of a wider wheel and a bit of a wider tyre. So yeah, kit's on the front part of it anyway. We've still got the back side to do, but I'm really happy with how it looks really aggressive. So wheel specs in the front, which you can just see there, is Rotor RKR, they're 15x8 ET0. Yes, for all you real wheel haters out there, I would love some Watanabes. They are my favourite wheel, but ultimately a set of Watanabes in that exact size offset, very rare. And I priced them up, and landed from Japan was just under £3,000, and I'm just not prepared to pay $3,000 for a set of 4 wheels of track car just to please the real wheel haters. By all means, if you've got a set that offset, that colour, that size, for 500 quid or 550, I think these are delivered, hit me up. I'll probably buy them. But if you haven't, don't wear it. The rotors, deal with it. And the only thing I'm not happy about the kit is we've had to get rid of our March G bumper, which has a slightly bigger opening for the intercooler. So we've got our fiberglass technician who we hire, who's going to hopefully extract the pattern of the Nismo arch that's blended into the bumper there, and then we'll transfer it over to the March G bumper over there at some point. Other than that, I've probably waffled on for way too long. You've probably all switched over to watching them Indian guys make a house out of some mud and some sticks. If you're still here, thanks, I guess. Good job. And we'll see you in a few weeks, hopefully, for another update. So thank you for watching. I will see you later. Woohoo!